The General and Special Senses. Chapter 17. Introduction. Senses, our perception of what is out there. 2 groups. General senses. Special senses. General senses includes senses that are skin or kinesthetic. Temperature, pressure, touch, pain, vibration, proprioception. Pass information along the spinal nerves and pathways to the somatosensory cortex. Special senses: olfaction, gustation, equilibrium, hearing, and vision. Found within complex sense organs. Pass information along the cranial nerves to specific areas of the cerebral cortex. Receptors. Sensory receptors are transducers to general types. Change stimuli into electrochemical impulses. Specific receptors can transduce only certain types of stimuli. 2 general types. Exteroceptors. Interoceptors. Interpretation of sensory information. Occurs in cerebral cortex. Depends on the area of the cerebral cortex that receives the information. Also depends on the sequence of neurons carrying the information. Central processing and adaptation. Adaptation, the loss of sensitivity after continuous stimulation. Tonic receptors are always active. Phasic receptors only relay changes in the conditions they are monitoring. Role, prevents brain from being overloaded with unimportant information. Receptors of the general senses. Nociceptors. Detect pain. Referred pain. Phantom pain. Mechanoreceptors respond to pressure and touch. Tactile receptors. Baroreceptors. Proprioreceptors. Thermoreceptors, tactile receptors. Found in the dermis. Baroreceptors. Monitor changes in pressure. Chemoreceptors. Detect chemicals in solution. Blood composition. The special senses. Olfaction, the nose. Olfactory receptors can detect at least 50 different primary smells. Located in the epithelium of roof of nasal cavity. Olfactory receptors. Molecules dissolve in the mucus or lipids of the epithelium. Olfactory neurons pass through the cribriform plate and synapse in the olfactory bulb. Olfactory tracts go directly to the cerebral cortex. Gustation, the tongue. Taste receptors are in the taste buds. 4 primary tastes. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter. Located in papilla on the surface of the tongue. Contain the gustatory receptors. Molecules dissolve in saliva. Pathway of gustatory sense. 3 cranial nerves relay sensory impulses to the cerebral cortex. Facial, glossopharyngeal, vagus. All pass through the medulla and thalamus. Equilibrium and hearing, the ear. External ear. The auricle directs sound waves into the external auditory meatus to the tympanic membrane. The middle ear, located in the temporal bone, contains the auditory ossicles. Malleus. Incus. Stapes. Connected to throat by the eustachian tube, the inner ear located in the temporal bone. Separated from the middle ear by the oval window, the inner ear consists of a series of canals called the bony labyrinth. Lined by a membranous labyrinth filled with endolymph. Perilymph flows between the bony and membranous labyrinth. The inner ear, the bony labyrinth, is divided into 3 areas. Vestibule contains saccule and utricle. Semicircular canals. Each has an ampulla. Cochlea contains Organ of Corti. The utricle and saccule detects static position. Hair cells are embedded in a gelatinous material. Otoliths at work. Otoliths are balanced on top of gelatinous material. Slide when head tips. Bend hairs. Generates nerve impulse. The semicircular canals. Detect dynamic balance. Arranged at right angles to each other. In the ampulla, hair cells are embedded in gelatinous material, copula, with fluid over it. Movement of head. Bends the hairs. Creates nerve impulses. Semicircular canals at work. The cochlea. Divided into 3 tunnels by the vestibular and basilar membranes. Scala vestibuli ends in the oval window. Cochlear duct contains the organ of Corti. Scala tympani ends in the round window. Cochlear chambers. The organ of Corti consists of hair cells on the basilar membrane. Tips of hairs touch the tectorial membrane. Basement membrane vibrates. Hair cells bend. Sends a nerve impulse. Pathway of auditory sense. Summary of hearing: sound waves enter the external auditory meatus. Tympanic membrane vibrates. Auditory ossicles vibrate. Oval window vibrates. Perilymph in scala vestibuli and scala tympani moves. Basilar membrane moves. Hairs rub against the tectorial membrane. Nerve impulse is sent along the vestibulocochlear nerve to the brain. Vision, the eye, accessory structures. Eyelids protect the eye. Conjunctiva lines the eyelid. Lacrimal apparatus. Lacrimal gland produces tears. Lacrimal canals drain tears into lacrimal sacs. Nasolacrimal duct drains into the nasal cavity. Extrinsic muscles move the eyeball. Structure of the eye: 3 tunics. Fibrous tunic. Includes cornea and sclera. Vascular tunic. Includes choroid coat, ciliary body, lens, iris and pupil. Neural tunic, retina. Contains photoreceptors. Rods and cones. Includes optic disc, macula lutea and fovea centralis. Photo of posterior eye. The cavities of the eye. The lens separates the interior of the eye into 2 cavities. Anterior cavity. Contains aqueous humor. Glaucoma. Posterior cavity. Contains vitreous humor. The vascular tunic contains many blood vessels and nerves. The iris controls the size of the pupil. Suspensory ligaments attach the lens to the ciliary body. Controls the shape of the lens. The retina cones allow for sharp color vision in bright light. Contain pigments. Macula lutea. Fovea centralis. Rods provide for vision in dim light. Contain the pigment rhodopsin. Most dense at periphery of retina. Pathway of vision sense. Summary of vision: light rays enters through the pupil. Light rays cross in the lens. Retina receives reversed and upside down image. Rods and cones are stimulated. Optic nerve carries impulse to the brain.